I know that for most of you it's been a while since you've been on a plane, but I'm sure you remember how inconvenient air travel can be. There's delayed departures, luggage that's always dangerously close to the weight limit, and going through airport security can be anywhere from mildly annoying to downright uncomfortable. In such stressful moments, people usually don't exactly pay attention to their surroundings or remember any memorable features about the airport they're so desperately trying to leave. Most airports all look the same, with the same long generic corridors and the same duty-free shops. However, today's topic is one of the exceptions. Today we're talking about the Denver International Airport. The DIA is the biggest airport in the USA, and it's home to many features that have sparked conversations and entertained conspiracy theories since even before it opened on the 28th of February 1995. From a huge blue murderous horse to a potential underground bunker, buckle your seatbelts because we're in for a wild ride. The Denver International Airport was built to replace Stapleton Airport, which opened in 1929 but had started becoming obsolete towards the end of the 1970s. This was due both to the Airline Deregulation Act of 1978, which took the control over air travel from the federal government and gave it to individual airlines, and to the population of Denver growing exponentially due to the mining, petroleum and energy industry in the region. Basically, Denver needed a bigger airport, and it also needed it to be further away from the city so that they could build skyscrapers to accommodate for the growing population. But first, the city needed to convince its inhabitants to agree to the construction of a new huge airport 25 miles away from downtown Denver. That's when officials got the idea to pitch the new airport as a cultural monument in its own right. The new airport would have lots of interesting features and art pieces, and it would reflect the spirit of Colorado to the travelers that would go through it every day. For example, as a reference to the numerous Native American tribes of Colorado, they decided that the main terminal would be made up of 21 teepee-like structures, which looked great but ended up causing issues on bad weather days, where the fabric would rip under the weight of the rain and snow, leaving the travellers underneath exposed to the elements. The engineers behind the Denver International Airport also came up with a brand new innovation in the form of an automated baggage system. This was meant to transport the passengers' luggage all the way from check-in to inside the aircraft automatically, without needing any help from human staff. This ended up being one of the most expensive parts of the airport construction, with a cost estimated at around $200 million. Unfortunately, this system flopped massively. Instead of being thrown into the aircraft, most of the luggage would end up crashing on the ground, if it even made it all the way to the plane in the first place. This massive failure ended up making the construction of the airport very over budget and very behind schedule, and it led to budget cuts on the rest of the airport. But the DIA eventually opened on the 28th of February 1995, which was 16 months after the originally scheduled date. The full cost ended up being $4.8 billion, which was a whole $1.9 billion over budget. What's more, the airport opened with only 88 operational gates as opposed to the 120 that were promised originally. For reference, Stapleton Airport, the one that was deemed obsolete and the whole reason for this project, had 108 operational gates. Despite its rocky beginnings though, the DIA still became one of the busiest and most recognisable airports in the world. It's the second biggest airport in the world, the biggest in the USA, and it's the biggest employer in the state of Colorado with about 30,000 employees. But the inconsistencies between the huge cost and construction delays and the overall disappointing results, as well as some questionable choices of decor, put the DIA at the centre of many conspiracy theories, which we'll be looking at now. First, we need to talk about the horse. The first thing visitors see when they get to the airport is a giant blue horse with glowing red eyes, standing on its hind legs, looking towards the Rocky Mountains. The sculpture, officially named Blue Mustang, was commissioned in 1993 from artist Luis Jimenez and was meant to represent the spirit of the American West. It is 32 feet tall, made of steel and fiberglass, and adorned with glowing red eyes, which are an homage to the artist's dad, who owned a neon sign shop. It's also absolutely terrifying, which is why it earned itself the name of Blucifer, but its threatening aura doesn't only come from its looks. In 2006, while Jimenez was working on the sculpture, a piece of the frame fell on him and sliced his artery in his thigh, causing him to bleed to death. The sculpture was near completion at the time, so his friends and family completed it and it was unveiled in 2008. Due to its murderous tendencies and its threatening appearance, some people think that Blucifer is a reference to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Other people think it's cursed, and there's even been Facebook groups dedicated to getting it removed. But here we are, 13 years later, and Blucifer still stands strong. Looking over the east and west baggage claims are 2 cast bronze gargoyles. They go by the name of Notre Denver, which is obviously a play on Notre Dame, and are pictured coming out of open suitcases. Those gargoyles have also been the subject of theories and suspicion, with some people saying that they represent the devil, or the fact that they're usually made of stone, even though these ones aren't, refers to the Freemasons, or the fact that they're usually found in churches link them to the Knights Templar. Actually, gargoyles were historically made to protect buildings from evil, and Denver Airport themselves say that they're there to ensure the safe arrival of baggage. Also, to some, the fact that they're coming out of suitcases is just a mocking reminder of the massive flop of the automated baggage system that we discussed earlier. Also by the east and west baggage claims are 2 huge murals. They're called In Peace and Harmony with Nature and Children of the World Dream of Peace, and they were painted by an artist called Leo Tanguma, and they're a lot to unpack. First, let's talk about Children of the World Dream of Peace. This mural is separated in 2 panels. The panel on the right depicts a gas-masked Nazi soldier stabbing a dove with his sword while holding a rifle in the other hand. A group of refugees can be seen walking away, one of them holding a dead child. There's ruins everywhere, and some children of various ethnicities are pictured in the middle of the painting alone, suggesting that their parents are gone. In the bottom right corner, a letter can be seen, which was apparently written by a child who died in 1949 at Auschwitz. This is obviously very heavy stuff, with themes of death, war, genocide and destruction. It was clearly inspired by the horrors of history. But moving on to the second, bigger part of the mural, we can see a much more positive scene. A large group of children from all nationalities are coming together to destroy weapons over the seemingly dead body of the same Nazi soldier from the first panel. It seems to convey a message of peace, unity and love triumphing over war and destruction. Now let's look at In Peace and Harmony with Nature. Again, this mural is separated into 2 panels. This time the smaller one is on the left, and we're going to look at that one first. It depicts another horrible scene with animals seen as dead or in grave danger. The fire rages in the background, and the children can be seen either looking distressed, crying, or even worse, lying in coffins. Among other animals, a passenger pigeon, which is an extinct species native to North America, can be seen in a glass box as if it were part of a museum exhibit. To me, this mural was clearly inspired by the fact that we as humans are quite steadily destroying the environment. However, the right-hand panel, once again bigger, shows us another happier scene. It shows once again children from all backgrounds, as well as a bunch of animals and some beautiful landscapes. The children look happy and are gathered around a strange-looking, multicoloured plant. This was only a quick overview, and I encourage you to look up the murals and have a look at the details for yourself. They're truly fascinating, if a little bit unsettling to look at. But now let's look at the theories. So there's an overarching theory that the New World Order, or the Illuminati, or the Nazis, or the Freemasons, or all of the above have had an influence on the construction of the airport. There's also a theory that either of these groups are planning to take over humanity and destroy everyone, which is what is alluded to in these murals. Other people seem to think that they are alluding to Armageddon. Either way, the murals show what is to come: war, death, destruction, and genocide. As a very small sample, the comments on a video of the murals I found here on YouTube are absolutely fascinating, and I really recommend you to have a look at them. I'll have a playlist linked in the description. Overall, most conspiracies seem to either ignore the more positive parts of the murals, or say that they're depicting either the past or the present, which will then be destroyed, or the future society that will be rebuilt by either group mentioned earlier after they kill the rest of humanity. But what does Leo Tanguma himself have to say about this? Well, in an Atlas Obscura interview in July 2020, he explained how the conspiracies affected his reputation, even making him unable to work with schools, which used to be his livelihood. It's actually quite sad to see how distressed he is about the negative reception of his murals. He explains that the murals have a message of hope and human liberation, and are nowhere near as evil or foreboding as some people claim them to be. And I think it's pretty obvious. I think there's a very clear pro-peace and pro-environmentalism message to these murals. They show that the human race has already destroyed and killed, but also that a better future is possible. But I don't know, you tell me what you think. This theory gained a lot of popularity after an episode of Conspiracy Theories with Jesse Ventura aired in January 2010 called Apocalypse 2012. In this episode, Jesse Ventura explored the theory of the Mayan calendar predicting the end of the world for December 21st, 2012. And he explained that the art in the DIA represents a roadmap to the apocalypse. He also suggested that the DIA hides a bunker for the elites to hide in and live out the apocalypse. Obviously, December 2012 came and went, but there's also other factors that make conspiracy theorists believe that there is indeed a bunker under the airport. The main one is the fact that Colorado is a prime location for a bunker in case of an attack on the west or the east coast, since it's pretty much right in the middle of the country. That's why there's actually already a bunker in Colorado, the Cheyenne Mountain Complex near Colorado Springs. Another reason for this conspiracy is the maze of tunnels under the airport. They go for miles and miles. It's pretty much an underground city, and it's close to the public, so obviously people assume that it's hiding a giant secret. There's also the issue of the budget. As I mentioned in the first part of this video, the construction of the airport went over by almost $2 billion, and it was delayed 16 months, but it doesn't appear to have much to show for it, and this money definitely had to go somewhere, right? So basically, there's already a bunker in Colorado, and there's tunnels under the airport, and the airport cost a lot more money than it should have, so conclusion, there's a bunker hiding under there. And if that's the case, that's kind of worrying. The Cheyenne Mountain Complex was built during the Cold War, when there was actually a threat for the security of the country, so its existence makes sense. But this one was built after the fall of the Soviet Union and before the wave of anti-terrorism following 9/11. So what was it in preparation for? Do the elites know something that we don't? However, using those same arguments, I think we can pretty easily turn this theory the other way around. There's already a bunker in Colorado, so where's the need for another one? As for the tunnels and the issue of the over budget, we already talked about the failed automated baggage system. That's what the tunnels were built for, as well as just allowing employees to go around quickly. And that's also, although only partly, why the airport was so over budget. There's also a slightly different theory that says that one of those tunnels under the airport lead directly to the Cheyenne Mountain bunker, which is only 100 miles away. When an employee of the airport was asked about it, he simply said, "Do you have any idea how expensive that would be?" At the DIA's south entrance, a dedication plaque can be found. It's dated March 19th, 1994 and reads, "The time capsule beneath this stone contains messages and memorabilia to the people of Colorado in 2094. It also bears the symbol of the Freemasons, the name of 2 Grand Lodges in Colorado and the Masters, and the phrase New World Airport Commission. This feeds into the theory that the Freemasons are behind the construction of the airport and are somehow controlling it, and it also ties in with the theory of the New World Order, especially with the name of the commission that's mentioned on the plaque. Upon googling the New World Airport Commission, you won't get a lot of results. It seems that the commission either doesn't exist or is hidden for some reason. Well, actually it's a lot less mysterious than that. The new Airport Commission was named on a bit of a whim when it was created as a temporary commission made to arrange the DIA's opening festivities. The name comes from the New World Symphony by Anton Dvorak. The reason why you can't find much about it is just that it was a temporary commission. As for the reference to the Freemasons, it's just there because the two Masonic lodges crafted and laid the stone, which is what Freemasons do. As for the theory that the time capsule contains some kind of biological weapon, that's also a bit of a stretch. According to the Denver Post, the time capsule contains coins, a signed opening day ball from Coors Field, some Black Hawk casino tokens, and Mayor Wellington Webb's sneakers, among other things. So unless you consider a man's 100-year-old pair of sneakers a biological weapon, that's also a no. Speaking of biological weapons, let's look at some of the floor tiles in the airport. In the Great Hall of the airport, a floor tile shows an engraving of a minecart with the letters AUAG engraved into it. This happens to be an abbreviation for the Australian antigen strain of hepatitis. To some people, this is another reference to the New World Order, and this is the virus that will be used to bring the human race to extinction. Except the vaccine for that virus was invented in the 80s, which is before the DIA was even built. So in terms of biological weapons, this one probably wouldn't do much damage. And AU and AG also happen to be the atomic symbols for gold and silver, which would make sense since they're depicted inside of a mining cart, and mining is one of the main industries in Colorado. There's also rumours that the strange characters on some other tiles are codes left by aliens or secret societies. For example, this sentence on the screen right now. Some people even say it's German for black sun, which is apparently another word for swastika. It's actually Navajo and it means white mountains, and it makes sense because we're in Colorado. Finally, the last thing we're looking at today is the shape of the runways. Looking at it from above, the airport does have an interesting shape to it. Some would even say it looks like a swastika. This ties back into the Nazi imagery in the murals we looked at, and the overarching theory that the airport is run by a higher power, in this case, Nazis. Except if you actually look at it, it doesn't look like a swastika. Also, if there was a secret society running the airport, why would they advertise themselves in such an obvious way? But anyways, the fact is that the runways were built this way to allow multiple planes to take off at the same time, even in bad weather. This was something that the previous airport struggled with, so when designing the new airport they made sure to remedy that problem. In 2018, the DIA embarked on a $1 billion renovation and expansion project. Since then, they have seriously leaned into the conspiracy theories, with signs saying things such as, "Are we creating the world's greatest airport or preparing for the end of the world?" In 2019, they even installed a new gargoyle, and this one talks. It can hold conversations in real time with passerbys and says things like,
"Welcome to Illuminati headquarters. I mean, Denver International Airport."
So basically, when the DIA was built, it set out to be more than just an airport. It needed to be a cultural monument and it had to be unique. They wanted to build a special airport, and I think they achieved it. Nowadays, the conspiracy theories keep the airport relevant and they keep the conversation going. So I'm not surprised that they're using them for publicity. I think that if they were actually hiding nefarious things, they'd probably be a bit more subtle about it. Or maybe they're just hiding in plain sight. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry I didn't post for almost a year, but I'm really happy to be back and I really enjoyed researching and making this video. If you'd like to continue the conversation in the comments, please do so. I really want to hear what you have to say about this, but please, regardless of your opinion, be polite because we're all friends here. I listed a playlist in the description that has all the video footage that I used in this video, as well as a document that has links to all of my sources if you want to check them out or if you want to do some extra research for yourself. If you have any idea about a topic you'd like me to make a video about, please leave that in the comments as well. And I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so if you could subscribe and hit the little notification bell as well, that lets you know whenever I upload. And don't worry, I won't go another year without uploading. Thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.